Hello and welcome to this video on automated measurement invariance testing in JMP. My name is Geiser. I'm an instructor and statistical consultant with QuantFish. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can conduct a multi-group confirmatory factor analysis with automated measurement invariance testing in the JMP software without having to use any kind of code or syntax. So let's jump right into it and let's take a look at how this works. JMP is spelled JMP, by the way, and it's a program that is free for academics. In this case, I'm going to select a data file here from my list of data files that I have already used. You can see that JMP allows us to open data files in a variety of formats, including CSV files, text files, SPSS data files, and others. So here I'm going to use the data file named psychometrics.csv. And so when I double click on that, then my data window opens and you can see that it looks like an Excel spreadsheet. You have your variables here in the different columns, and then each row in this case represents a participant. The first variable in this data set here is female, which is a grouping variable where 0 indicates male, 1 indicates female. The other variables are test score variables from different psychometric tests, and we're going to use some of those for a multi-group measurement invariance analysis. Now, the first thing that we have to do before we can start with the multi-group analysis is we have to make sure that our grouping variable is properly defined as a nominal variable. And you can see here that right now this is not the case because all the variables here have the little JMP symbol for continuous variables. And so when we right click on the female variable and then go to column info, then we can change the variable properties, and you can see here that the modeling type right now is continuous, and so we should change that to nominal because this variable is our grouping variable, and JMP will not allow you to use this variable as a grouping variable if it's defined as a continuous variable. So then we click OK, and next we're going to go to Analyze, Multivariate Methods, Structural Equation Models, which is the general JMP module for running all kinds of structural equation models, including path analysis, confirmatory factor analysis, general structural equation modeling, also growth curve modeling, and other types of longitudinal models. So when we click on that, then the first thing that we need to do is we need to define the variables that we want to use in our confirmatory factor model. So in this case, I'm going to use those 6 variables here. I'm going to select them from my variable list, and I'm going to click them over into the field model variables. And then next, we have to define our grouping variable, which here is female. So we're going to click on that and then groups. And so now JMP knows that this is going to be a multi-group analysis. Also, you can see that the default estimation method is maximum likelihood or full information maximum likelihood with missing data if you have any missing cases. You can change that to maximum likelihood with robust inference in cases where you have non-normal data. Next, we're going to click OK, and then our diagrammer opens. And so you can see here already in the diagram window that we have our manifest variables listed here. And so now we can add our factors to the model. And so I'm going to do that by selecting the variables in the to list and then defining a latent variable label here at the bottom. The generic label here is latent1. I'm going to change that to MRT. So this is factor that represents mental rotation ability. Those 2 indicators are test halves of a mental rotations test. And so then by clicking the plus symbol here, the latent variable will be added to our model, and the 2 indicators are removed from the indicator list up here. Next, we're going to select the remaining 4 variables for a second factor named ZVT. So this is a numerical processing speed test. And so now we have 2 different factors. We should allow a correlation or covariance between the 2, and we can do that by right-clicking on the ZVT factor and then add a covariance. And so now we have two correlated factors. This is a model that is typically used when we use confirmatory factor analysis, where we allow factors to correlate. So then you can already see here that we have 0 and 1 for the different gender groups. So gender 0 is male or female, 0 is male, and then female 1 is female. And so here we can specify different parameters for the different models. However, the easiest way to deal with measurement invariance is actually to go to an automated function that you can find under model shortcuts, cross-sectional classics, multi-group measurement invariance. So this makes your life really easy because it allows you to fit all or most of the relevant measurement invariance models that we would typically fit automatically without having to specify them all individually. So we're going to go to that option, and then we can select the latent variables here for which we want to test measurement invariance. We have already defined those two latent factors, MRT and ZVT, and then we can click on OK. And so then you can see automatically JMP fits an unrestricted or saturated model, an independence model, a configural invariance model, weak invariance model, strong invariance model, and strict invariance model. And not only does it fit all these models and give us the fit statistics, but it also automatically conducts chi-square difference tests, because those models, or some of those models, are nested models, and therefore they can be compared directly with a chi-square difference test. And it also gives us a delta CFI and a delta RMSEA for those comparisons. So let's go through those fit statistics and let's see what this tells us here. So you can see the unrestricted or saturated model obviously has a chi-square and degrees of freedom of 0. So this is a very basic model that simply reproduces all observed means, covariances, and variances in both groups. And so next is the independence model, which assumes that variables can have variances but no covariances. And you can see this model here has a very high chi-square of 940 and 30 degrees of freedom, a p-value that's very small. So this model is rejected. Next is our configural invariance model, and the configural invariance model fits these data well with a chi-square p-value of 0.265. So that's non-significant, so the configural model is not rejected, which is good because it means that then it makes sense to continue with more constrained multi-group models. Next is the weak measurement invariance model, which is also known as a metric invariance model. And that model has also a non-significant chi-square. You can see that the chi-square value is barely larger than the configural model chi-square, but this model has 4 more degrees of freedom. And so the p-value is even better for the weak invariance model as compared to the configural model. So that model also looks good. And then next is strong invariance with a chi-square of 21.6285, 24 degrees of freedom. So this has equal intercepts. The weak invariance model has equal loadings. The strong invariance model has equal loadings and equal intercepts, and is also known as a scalar invariance model. And so you can see that p-value here looks really good as well for equal intercepts and equal loading. So strong invariance looks like it's also acceptable. And then the next model is the strict invariance model, which has a chi-square of 34.75, 30 degrees of freedom, and has a p-value of 0.25. So that's still non-significant. And also when you look at the other fit statistics, you can see that they all look good, even for the strict invariance model here. We can then also directly compare the models in the next table, where you can see first is a test of the weak or metric invariance model against configural invariance, and that chi-square difference is not significant, indicating that the weak invariance model doesn't fit worse than the configural model. Next is strong invariance against weak invariance, and that also yields a non-significant chi-square p-value for the difference test, and that indicates that strong or scalar invariance doesn't fit worse here than weak or metric invariance. And then next is strict invariance against strong invariance, which yields a significant chi-square p-value, 0.04, so that's significant at the 0.05 level, indicating that the strict invariance model does fit worse than the strong invariance model in this case. You also get delta CFIs, delta RMSEAs for the same comparisons, and so you can decide which test or index you want to use, whether you want to go with the chi-square difference test or with the delta CFI or delta RMSEA. Those are also provided here. And so then next you can take a look at the models individually, their parameter estimates. They're provided here, and you can see there's a little 0 here and a little 1. So you could either look at the male models for the value of 0, or the estimates in the female model, which is a little 1 here, group 1. So that only matters, of course, for those models where you have differences between the two groups, like for example in the configural model. So when we open that configural model, then you can see, okay, here we have a model that has unequal loadings across groups. So right now we're in group 1, so that's the configural model for females. And then if we go to 0, then we have the configural model for males, and those parameters are then different here for those two groups, as you can see when you switch back and forth between 0 and 1 here. The configural model we would probably not look at in great detail because we saw that the other models fit so well. So we would probably go with either the strong invariance model or the strict invariance model, depending on how we interpret those different tests here and the different indices. So I would say here, since the strict invariance model still has a non-significant chi-square p-value, you could even go with that. Or you could decide to go at least with the strong invariance model, which looks superb here in terms of its fit. So let's do that. Let's go to the strong invariance model. Let's check it out in detail. So you can see here, right now we're in group 0, meaning group male. When you switch to group 1 now, you can see the parameter estimates here for the loadings and for the intercepts that are given at the bottom. Those are the same because this is the model with equal loadings and equal intercepts. The structural parameters are not the same because those have not been constrained here. So you can see that we have also a mean structure in group 1. So when you go to that, you can see that latent means are also estimated in that model. You can see the arrows from the constant of 1 that go to ZVT here, 0.574, and that go to MRT, negative 0.339. So those are latent means. And in the strong invariance model or scalar invariance model, we can estimate the latent means in the second group or subsequent groups if you have more than two groups. In group 0, the means remain fixed at 0, which you can see here from the fact that there are no arrows pointing from the constant of 1 to those latent factors in group 0. Only in group 1 can we estimate the latent means, and so those indicate mean differences relative to group 1. You can also find them in the output here. So you can see we're in group 1 female and we have constant arrow MRT, constant arrow ZVT under means and intercepts, and so those are the latent means. And so this shows you that with regard to the mental rotations factor, females scored lower on average than did males because this mean is negative and it's significant at the 0.05 level. So there was a significant mean difference in favor of males with regard to the first factor MRT. And with regard to the second factor, the mean is positive in group female, indicating that females scored higher on the numerical processing speed factor than did males on average. And you can see that's also significant at the 0.05 level. So this indicates that there are mean differences in opposite directions here for those two factors. And those can be interpreted because this model here has equal loadings and equal intercepts. So we have strong measurement invariance across groups, which allows us to compare latent means across groups. So, and then you can switch back here to male. And then you can see for males, the means are fixed to 0. So that's the reference group. There are no latent means estimated. This is why we interpret the means in the second group as mean differences relative to group 1. In this table of the parameter estimates, you also get standard errors for all parameters. You get z-statistics, you get p-values, as in most other SEM programs. And so it's very convenient that we get all those different models at once with this option, with all the parameter estimates, all the standard errors, test statistics, and so on. So it's a very, very convenient option to test measurement invariance across groups quickly without having to manually specify all those models. I hope you found this video useful to learn about automated measurement invariance testing in JMP. My name is Christian Geiser, and I'll see you in the next video.